Welcome back to episode 144 of the RUDIS Wrestling podcast. Today I've got a special guest, and before I introduce him, I'm actually going to talk about him because if you know this man, he's not one to talk much about himself or what he's done or what he's accomplished. But this is literally, in my mind, one of the greatest college wrestling coaches of our era. He's a four-time All-American, two-time national champ, national coach of the year, three-time defending EIWA champs who we have on the show, head coach of Lehigh University, Pat Santoro. Pat, thanks for jumping on.
No, Matt, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about this for a while, but I'm glad. Unfortunately, we've got a gap in time where we've got some free time on our hands. So, but I'll take whatever I can get when it comes to having a conversation with you. So I guess, how's the Zoom age working out for you?
It's good. I'm learning a lot. I never used Zoom until about 3 weeks ago. So got a number of Zoom calls every day. So it's actually going pretty well.
Yeah, and this is I know this is a technology that's been out there for a while, but since I've been out of coaching the last 2 years, it's not something that I'm that familiar with, but it seems like every coach that I'm talking to is kind of like, this is your new reality, like operating off of Zoom and allowing to interact with your guys. This is how the guys are interacting with their coaches, with their professors, with their support system. Is that the understanding? Do I have that understanding?
Yeah,
correct?
exactly right. Our tutors are online, our academic support's online, our classes are online. So everything's going through Zoom right now.
Yeah. So when I've been talking to some other coaches the obvious reality that everybody wants to talk about is, the end of the season and, the opportunities that your athletes didn't have to achieve their goals. But I know for you as a head coach, especially with everything else that's going on, it's how do we navigate this landscape to make sure our student athletes are successfully, addressing all their academic issues, getting the academic support they need so they don't fall off track. And I know as a former coach, that's always a concern, is like, when the guys are away from you, what are they doing? And so if you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's the challenge right now. I think most of our guys have done an excellent job. A couple guys have to stay on a little bit, and because I think when you're sitting at home all day, it's tough just to stay motivated. But our academic support has done a nice job of getting our guys caught up on everything they need to be catching up on. Some guys, this new technology, it's tough for them because they'd rather be going to class or better with face-to-face. So they're navigating that for the first time, and I think professors are trying to figure it out, and I think they're being pretty lenient. They really want to be helpful. That's the nice thing about Lehigh. Usually if you teach at Lehigh, you want that small group environment. So I think the teachers are kind of thriving in this, and they're learning very quickly.
So when you're looking at your guys, I know a lot of people would be like, well, Pat's got the smartest guys in the world. There's no issues there. But yeah, you have some of the smartest guys in the country at Lehigh, but there's academic challenges that are higher than other institutions, and the demands and the rigors of the Lehigh education, the Lehigh curriculum are a little bit more challenging than some other places.
Yeah, no question. I mean, getting a 3.0 at Lehigh is way different than getting a 3.0 at a lot of other places. So our guys understand that. I think they're accepting this new challenge. But schools, Lehigh prepares you when you leave, and then that's what it always does. And it's our job as coaches to make sure the kids are prepared also. But when you leave here, usually kids hit with their feet and running. So being that challenged academically, it's part of the process of getting better.
So I know as a coach, we're always trying to turn things into a positive, and whatever the situation, you've got to find the silver lining in some ways. Um, so as you're talking with Brad and Zach and the rest of the staff, as you're putting your heads together and trying to figure this out, how have you kind of structured, or is it a loose structure, or is it a fluid process? Like, you're learning literally by the day how to engage better, how to dial this in better. How has this process been the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
And definitely learning as you go. What I try to do is we have a bunch of Zoom groups. We did a team meeting with the Zoom, and then now we're doing like subgroups. Some of the things I'm trying to do is put some ownership back on the guys. Like, hey, how can we make recruiting better? What did you like in the recruiting process? What didn't you like? What did you like about the practice plan? What did you like about the morning drills and morning lifts? So we're putting subgroups together. These guys they're really creative marketing our program. They've done a really good job. They're a really creative group. They're responding pretty well. I like to do a few more of these as we get on each week. We want to start learning more and more about what we can do better to support our team. But they're also taking the ownership of, hey, how can we make this whole program better for the next class moving forward?
And that's really, I mean, any great program and any program that replicates itself year after year. I mean, there is that ownership that's taken on by the group of the guys. It can't be driven by the coaching staff. It's got to be embraced and embodied by the guys in the team. And I think this is a perfect way to pass that on, right? To take ownership of the program, be more engaged, and probably actually become more aware, because I think a lot of wrestlers, and you experience this when a wrestler becomes a coach for the first time. They're like, holy crap, this is what you guys do all day? We don't just show up for 2 hours in the wrestling room or do one-on-ones. Like, um, has it allowed the guys to become more aware of how comprehensive running a Division I athletic program actually is?
I think it's more they're more appreciative of what they had because we don't have the access to everything we had before. I do think, it's one of those things as you talk about, responsibility and structure, you really have to have that right now. Um, but I think our guys overall and our coaches, we kind of understand. We have a pretty good group of guys. They understand what needs to be done. They know that the ownership of their careers is really, is really on themselves. We're there to navigate them and help them and guide them. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be a national champ, if you're going to be an All-American, you got to be self-driven. I always say you can inspire people, but you can't motivate people. Now that's going to come from within. And the guys that are really motivated are the guys that are making things happen during this time off. Because let's face it, when we come back, there's going to be separation. There's going to be, if you don't separate yourself from the other teams or your competition, it's going to show when we all do get back together. So I'm really looking forward to getting guys back. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be this summer or in the fall. But there's got to be that we're going to see who took advantage of this time and continue to work out, continue to work on some skills, who's watching video, who's doing their academics. There's going to be a time when you're going to have to pay the piper, and we're going to see who did what they're supposed to do. But as a program, we're trying to separate ourselves from the rest of the country, because right now it's really easy to feel sorry for yourself, lay back and do nothing. The guys that really want to, excel in life, they're the guys that are getting after it right now and being creative.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Kerry Colette a couple days ago, and his take on it was, look, Matt, if and we were actually specifically talking about the Olympic dream and the postponement of the 2020 games, but I think it applies similarly to college athletes. He's like, Matt, he's like, the guys that are truly committed to winning a gold, he's like, this is gonna be a blip for them. He's like, if you're truly committed to it, it's like, it doesn't matter if the national championship is next week, next year, 10 years from now. If that's truly in your heart and that's truly who you want to be, and that's truly a goal you want to shoot for, it's like, it doesn't matter. And I'm sure you're saying that to your guys all the time. It's like, hey, if there's excuses everywhere right now if you want to take them, but there's an excuse in every wrestling match if you want to take it in, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, every day you wake up with a choice. You can, guys come back from injury all the time and win titles. Guys come back from sicknesses. Guys wrestle sick. The best guys are the best guys, and it's a mindset. You have to have that every day. And the nice thing is the best guys, you don't have to talk about winning. They already know they're going to win. I mean, that's their plan. You just help them, guide them a little bit, and they kind of do the rest.
Yeah. So what I'm interested in some of the entrepreneurial ideas that your guys have come up with. Like, it fascinates me. I love to talk wrestling, but I also love talk about program building, and what are some of the ideas that they've come up with?
On the marketing stuff, I am terrible with technology, but they're talking about getting different social media stuff up on a consistent basis, which that's not me. We have a great person that does that, but being a small school, you don't have a whole staff of that. But our guys, talking about even little things. We do a T-shirt giveaway every year, which is great. I think we hand out like 1,500 T-shirts in a day to all the students. But now they want to sit in like the business center right now, during a match week, and make sure they're getting out to the students, making sure they're coming to the matches. Changing the student section in our matches to where they're sitting, where it can be, more beneficial to our team. It's a lot of little things right now. The social media presence is something that some schools do a phenomenal job at. That's, I think as our staff that's probably not our strength, social media. And we realize that. So we're going to start utilizing some of our young minds. So that's what that's probably our next step we're going to do.
Nice. So what what are you hearing? I mean, I know what's going on in the Midwest. On the East Coast, it's with the concentration of the population and everything. What are what is Lehigh University doing, and how are they engaging you at a university level?
Yeah, they're being supportive. I think they've done an incredible job of getting out in front of this early on. The NCAA tournament was canceled. It was kind of, we all kind of took a hit, hit to the gut. But they were kind of one of the first schools that, hey, listen, let's get your guys home, because we don't know if they're going to shut down state borders. They don't know we're going to shut down the university. They were kind of ahead of the curve. We kind of saw that coming. Most of our guys went home. We still have a handful of guys still living in their apartments. But we did a pretty good job of making sure that people knew it was coming, and guys got to kind of plan ahead and get their stuff out of their dorms and get ready to get home.
So before we jump into some other areas, I do wanna celebrate the season, because there's a lot of things looking back at your season this year that you can celebrate, even though we didn't get, you know, to get up to Minneapolis and get your guys in the podium and hopefully, get another national champion for Lehigh. It was a phenomenal season. I mean, and at, you know, at the end of it, winning your third straight. I mean, that's a significant thing. Your third straight EIWA title. I mean, that's a pretty significant thing.
Yeah, at this group of guys, I think the leadership was really good. The guys bought in. We had very little drama this year. There's always drama with every program, things that go on with your program. But these guys, we start off the season. We took some tough losses. They didn't, and the sad thing is they didn't wrestle poorly. I'd say, as a matter of fact, I think we started off 1-3, and the only match we were really disappointed with our performance was the match we won. We just didn't feel like we wrestled very well. The other two matches, I thought we fought hard. Things didn't go our way. We lost some really tight individual bouts, and we just kind of got better. We started doing this about a year ago when we had all those. Remember those injuries we had, 2 years ago? It's just
Yeah.
I've never seen. And I think 4 or 5 injuries were non-wrestling related, as far as not in our practice room. There are things they were doing on their own. So it was kind of a scary, as a coach, you're scratching your head. But we just took that approach of like, hey, let's just focus on what we can control. Let's focus on today's practice. And they did that. And I think last year they won 9 of the last 11 duels and won the conference. And then this year, the same approach. We won the last 11 duels and then won the conference. We were pretty excited about going to that national tournament. We never got that opportunity. But, I mean, every coach is disappointed at that. But there's a lot to celebrate. And I think the biggest thing is to celebrate the way I think the team they worked. It was just, they very quietly put down an outstanding season. It was just it's a great group of guys. They're very humble. They work hard. And I said the leadership was phenomenal.
And that's really where, it comes in, that buy-in and the belief from the guys and the team. And the one thing whenever we talk, Pat, that I love hearing about you, like, as long as you've been in the sport, you're still hungry to get better. And, I appreciate when you kind of pick my brain, although I think I should be the one picking your brain all the time. But that's what I find fascinating, that you've got that you still are engaged, you still want to learn, you still want to get better. And talk about how critical that is as a characteristic of a head coach, to continually seek out a new edge, continually to refine who you are, not only as a coach, but how you refine and elevate your program.
Yeah, I think it's every coach out there. It is, you want what's best for your kids. You want to, this sport's always evolving. About every 2 or 3 years, you have to kind of reinvent yourself as a program, what you're doing. I'm fortunate I have some coaches that I really trust out there. Guys like Lou Roselli. I mean, I feel like I can pick up the phone and talk to him anytime, and he's willing to share ideas, and we can bounce things off each other, which I really like. And you just mentioned Kerry Colad. He's another coach I really trust, and I think he does a phenomenal job. I think those coaches are pretty creative. I think they're open to different training opportunities and different ways to do things. I mean, bottom line, you have to have your fundamentals down. I mean, you got to be good on bottom, got to be good on top, you got to be good on your feet, good positioning. But there's a lot of creative ways. I think the most creative wrestlers and creative coaches usually have the most consistent results.
Yeah. But also there's more in today's day and age. There's a more scientifically based approach to training, recovery, all those things. How have you evolved in those areas about dialing in how you train the athletes, throughout the duration of the season, the periodization that you focus on in each one of those areas?
Yeah, that's a great question. You got to be careful about too much science. There's a lot of days off are huge. We've incorporated a lot of days off these last few years. I mean, we structured, you're off the mats today, today's on your own. Those are really important days, rest, recovery. I mean, we always say sleep's a weapon, nutrition's a weapon. Those are vital, because if you want to compete at a high level and train at a high level, you have to have days off and rest. But the scary part is you can get too caught up in that, and you start getting too in tune to your feelings, I guess, or how you're feeling. Because if you focus on like an injury, that's your focus all day, right? You got a sore shoulder, you're going to focus on your sore shoulder, or you're going to have sore legs. You just have to kind of ignore that a little bit. You still have to there's still a toughness that you have to have, sometimes you're going to have to train when you don't feel great. But I do believe that the time to really back off is that second half of the year. But there's some days when you train your team, and every coach will do it. You're training the mind. It's not so much about the body that day. It's about the mind and what you do, because you're going to be in those moments. And you've all seen them. Guys wrestle injured at the national tournament. They wrestle sick at the national tournament. We've had dual meets where guys probably shouldn't have wrestled, but they're adamant they're going to wrestle. And whether they win or lose that day, there's growth. One example, I'll say Jordan Wood. He did not wrestle healthy at all that first semester. But he's just a tough kid, and he kind of refused. We gave him a lot of time off, but came down to competition. He wrestled. He wanted to wrestle. But I think he grew from that. He's a lot stronger of a person because of it, but he's always been a strong person. That's just his mindset. But there's a science that you have to watch, you have to research better ways to train. But at the end of the day, there's also a toughness that you have to have, and resilience that you have to have. So it's kind of an art. We got to balance the science and the training. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly. And so one of the things that, I was thinking about as you were giving that answer was, I always thought, when all things are equal, I would love to coach the more intelligent athlete, the high IQ, right? And you've got, your program is made up by high achievers academically and athletically. And I'm sure the science-based approach, the analytics of it per se, or whatever, I'm sure your guys really love digging into that side of things, because they're part of, there's a huge part of them that's really academically driven. They love digging into data and researching. But what part of the element is like, how do you, with the most intelligent athletes, teaching them not to overthink things as well?
Yeah, overthinking things. Going into competition, you can't tell a guy right before he goes out there, hey, relax, it's already too late. Those are things you talk about beforehand, and we really keep it simple. I mean, we have such a group that they're great thinkers. So basically, our message is really simple and very clear every time out. Just put yourself in your best positions over and over again, and you want to stay in your lane, but you want that lane to widen throughout the season, so you get better at branching off on different techniques and setups. I think and our guys have done a really nice job of that. Especially the last 2 seasons, I think, of just, hey, it's a wrestling match, and there's no one shooting at you, right? It's go out there and you perform at your highest level. To me, you don't have to, like the Jordan Cutlers of the world, you don't have to talk about winning national titles every day. We do that personally, and we know their goals and we set goals, but you don't have to talk about, we got to win. You don't have to talk about winning every day. It's more about, you put yourself in positions to score as many points as you can each match. You're going to be fine. You're going to win those matches. It doesn't mean you don't, your strategies change as a match changes. You're up by a lot, your risk changes, right? But you don't have to really talk about those a whole lot. You just talk about the process of getting better. And I think these elite guys, you don't have to say, I mean, I just don't, I mean, you hear the interviews. I don't think Jason Nolf ever talked about winning, did he? I mean, he knew he was trying to win a national title every year. I bring him up because I just think he's the most fun wrestler to watch. Him and, Bo Nickel, I thought were just 2 outstanding guys. But yeah, I never heard him talking about it's a win at all costs, because they are bigger than the sport of wrestling, the guys we coach. There's going to be bigger things in life than wrestling. But right now, for the next 4 or 5 years, this is going to be a really, really important goal. There's going to be a lot of planning. There's going to be a lot of disappointment. There's a lot of joy. But you got to stay focused on the moment. But if everything's about winning and losing, you're going to be that guy that wins 3-2 all the time. And you're going to have to win those, but you want to have a fun style, and you're going to enjoy the sport a lot more when it just opened up, and not have that fear of losing. You got to hate losing, but you can't fear it.
Yeah, because I always assumed when I recruited a guy, like, yeah, you want to be here and you want to win. So why do I have to address that? If I recruited you and you bought into the mission that I believe is going to help you accomplish your goals, like, yeah, I know you want to win if you want to be here. So I don't need, as a coach, I don't need to apply that pressure. You're already dealing with that. So for as a coach, you probably try and minimize that more than actually talking about it all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, you expect to, come in this program, you expect to win. Every time you walk out on the mat, you expect to win. You just have to have that mindset, and you have to instill that in your culture of your team. And it's a process. Because you watch a program come along and you see programs get better, and there's years when they have great seasons and they get to nationals and maybe it doesn't work out for them, but they're still building a culture of winning. Like maybe those kids don't expect to win, and all of a sudden you get that first All-American, you get that first national champ. Now it's just expectation in the program. Like, hey, we're going to have multiple champions, multiple All-Americans every year. But that's part of the culture of your team and the mindset of expectation to win. Usually you're a year behind where you think you're as a team. Like the year you think you're going to win a conference, or the year you're going to think you get that team trophy, you're usually a year behind, just because maybe the belief isn't there with all the guys on your team. But you look at, I think, I have a lot of respect for what Rob Cole has done at Cornell and what Brian Smith has done, but it took them a while to get to that point. They had great teams, but when they got everybody buying in, they started winning at a high level.
Yeah, and with that, it's always variable year in and year out. I think so many coaches, when you finally win that EIWA championship and get a team trophy or breaking into the top 10, there's a tendency where coaches like, well, we need to replicate everything we did. If we do the same thing again, we'll get the same result, and that never happens. So talk about the variable nature and the different things that can be introduced to disrupt or change the circumstance.
Sure, everything changes. Even if you bring your 10 starters back, it's a different team. Now they have a year of experience. Now they have a year of maturity. You got new kids coming off a redshirt that are fighting for spots now. Some guy was a starter the year before. Now he has to, he's fighting for a spot, not just be an All-American, but to be the guy in the starting lineup. And that's what the best teams are having. They're having great people in their programs. And the only way you're going to be part of something bigger than yourself is if you're willing to accept the challenge of, hey, here comes someone really good in the program. This is freshman that's on my heels right now. I got to get better. So what you think is going to be your lineup usually is not your lineup. Things change. So you have to coach your team different every year, just like you have an athlete that develops every year. And, if you're coaching an individual person, every year they develop, correct? I mean, so your team's going to do the exact same thing. And some people have a great summer. Some people have an injury and they got set back a little bit. So your team will, even if the same team, it's always changing, just like your culture. I mean, we have a pretty good culture at Lehigh right now, and I always want to be better, but it ebbs and flows. I mean, if you don't define your culture, it'll define you really quickly, and you have to catch it while it's changing. Some years you have a perfect culture, some years not as strong as you want it. So culture is another thing, and that's part of your development as a team, because if everybody just thinks you're going to be good because everybody's back, those are usually the disappointing seasons.
Yeah. Now the targets kind of shifted in the conference the last couple of years, and I want to talk about how your guys have possibly shifted and the coaching staff has maybe shifted their mentality. I know the goal was always the same, but the outcome has been different the last several years. The goal was obviously win the EIWA championship, go on, contend, win a team trophy, hopefully capture a national championship. But, for the first, I believe, 9 years of your career, the hunt was defeating that team above you in the North, Cornell, right? They've kind of had the conference locked down for about a decade, and so you were chasing. Now in the last 3 years, you've repeated, from 2018 to 2020 with the EIWA championship. How has the shift in mentality changed with your guys? Like, no, we expect to be the dominant team. It's not like we hope to, we expect to, and we've actually done it, the last 3 years.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think our mindset has shifted. I think what we saw from our team the last few years, which has made a huge difference, is the bonus points. So maybe the expectation level change. Like I said, like maybe we're good enough to win a couple other years in that mix, but that full belief on 10 guys wasn't there. But now we see guys going out in those first couple rounds and just, I think the last 3 years we've had so many bonus points those first 2 rounds, and even big matches when we're in battles and all of a sudden we're getting pins or putting guys on their back late and getting a major. Those are things I think shifted, and now we need to do it at the national championship. That's the next step. But their goal has never been, oh, we got to win the conference every year. Yeah, we want to win it. We want to win every dual meet. We want to win the conference. We want to win every match of the national tournament. But at the same time, that's our goal is not just to be the conference champ. Our goal is to get as many guys on that podium, that third weekend in March. And I think that mindset is just part of that expectation has been, oh, we're going to win the conference also. That's great. But, there's a lot of teams that could have won the conference this year. I mean, Princeton had a great year. I think Kevin Ward's done an amazing job at an Army. And they were, I thought they had the most balanced team going in, as far as getting 10 guys on a podium that could place. I said this, during the year, I forget who I was in an interview. I said, don't sleep on Cornell. Cornell has a really good team. I know they're redshirting a lot of their kids, but they have a really good team. And sure enough, they showed up and they wrestled. But their expectation at Cornell is to win and to win that conference. And that you can see that in their guys that were in their lineup this year. So you can't sleep on any team. I thought Navy had an outstanding season, second half of the year, especially in a great tournament at the end. So this tournament right now is no longer a 2-team race. It's 4 or 5 teams right now, and it's going to be probably 5 or 6 as we move forward.
And as a competitor, as a coach, you want that. I mean, right? I mean, I'm sure you're excited to have Kerry in the conference now at Navy and what he's going to do and the standard he's going to set, and he's going to rise the tide within the conference.
Kerry's a phenomenal. I mean, I've known Kerry for a long time back, when I was a volunteer coach at Penn State. He's one of my favorite people. What I love about him, he's just real with you all the time. And I that's what I like in my life, people that are just real with you. So Kerry being in at Navy, he's going to bring a lot of excitement to the program. He's going to raise that level. But I thought Joel Sherritt was doing a really nice job too. I think he's a really good coach. But Kerry's he's going to do some great things in this conference. So he's going to make things really interesting. So it's going to be a really fun conference the next 5 or 6 years.
And that's exciting when I think any competitor, when they know they have to fight to get what they want, I mean, that's a rewarding part. Nobody really loves just running through the competition. Yes, there's a reward there, but the value's a bit different when you don't face that resistance.
Yeah. But, I think the conference is going to be one of those, it's getting better every year. We're going to start having 60 guys at that national tournament. And I think we'd love to see 70 guys from our conference there. We have a huge conference. We have 17 teams, but there's more teams rising to that top. And we need that. We need that as a conference. We need that as a sport in our country. I think it develops a lot of excitement.
Yeah. Talk about that. I mean, the EIWA is the biggest conference in the country, is it not? And talk about, there's challenges with that as far as like when you have a conference of it, is it 17 now or 17? So talk about the challenges of a big conference. I know the most apparent thing is like, especially when you get to the conference term, like it's not possible with all the Ivies and the academies for everyone to wrestle each other. So how are you guys addressing, parity is not the right word, but as far as the conference structure competing against each other and then getting to the tournament and adequately seeding it, in an equitable way when there's that many teams?
Yeah, I think the seeding's been the biggest challenge. Everybody tries to get about 7 or 8 duels in with other conference teams. It's just really tough with 17, especially because we have the Patriot League, we have the Ivy League, and we have a very eclectic group of other teams coming in. So the Ivy has their schedule, they're set on it. We try to wrestle all the Patriot League teams, just 4 of them that we have to compete with. We try to have them on our schedule every year, and so to really open up the schedule, it's tough because you're really working around the Ivy schedule that second half of the year when you can get into some of these teams. And we may lose a team or 2 every year in our conference and pick up another one. That's just going to be the nature of the beast. We're doing scheduling now, and we might lose a team that we've wrestled forever, at least for a few years. Because once you lose a team and you fill with another team, you probably keep that going for 2 to 4 years. We picked up Arizona State. That's been a nice little pickup we've had in the last few years, and I want to keep that. We have Oklahoma State we've picked up, and I really want to keep that. So you want your in-conference matches and out-of-conference matches. So I think it's important for the national seeding, not just your conference seeding. So I think that's the biggest challenge is keeping teams, because once you start moving weekends when you're used to competing with somebody, then it just the whole thing changes. So that's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah. So how do you balance that out? Because I know there's got to be a priority with conference duel, but I know as one of the elite in the conference that's trying to contend and win national titles, it's equally as important your out of conference schedule, not only to you but your fan base. I mean, the fan base. I mean, we can jump into the Lehigh fan base, and it's a unique culture there. But they want to see the best. Not only does the coaching staff, but the fan base demands that you bring in the best to Grayson Stabler.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge we have is, we'll wrestle a lot of teams, but getting those teams to come back a lot of times is not easy, because they have their own challenges, especially Big 10 or Big 12. So I do really respect the coaches that honor that. We've had teams that said they're going to come back and don't come back anymore, and that's always tough to deal with because you are expecting that. Your fan base is expecting that, and it doesn't happen. But I think most schools, if they can't do it year one, they'll come back a year two because they're, a lot of coaches. We try to wrestle coaches that I like to wrestle coaches that I trust. Like, hey, we want to have this. We want to have this match. We want to keep doing this. We had a talk with Rutgers beginning of the year. Like, we want to have them on our schedule because we think they're a great program. It's hard to maneuver that right now with the Big Ten schedule, EIWA schedule. But to bring in good teams, that's really important at Lehigh. We do want to have great teams come in. I think even the teams that come in, they really appreciate our fans. I think when they leave, they're like, this is a great place for us. We want to keep doing this. Just like I love going to the rack at Rutgers. I think that's an awesome idea. I love going to Carver Hawkeye Arena. I had my first experience at Gallagher 2 years ago. And I thought that was one of the best places to wrestle a match. I think they did a great job with the fan interaction. And we took a lot of those ideas and used them this year. So I'm really glad we have Oklahoma State on the schedule. Not only they're great teams, but they do a great job of marketing their sport.
So let's jump into rivalries and how you view rivalries. And when I think about Lehigh, like your rivalries are pulled in so many different directions. Traditionally, like most schools have just one, like Ohio State, Michigan comes to mind. I'm in Ohio now, so it's in my face nonstop. But you have conference rivalries, you have state rivalries, and then you have regional rivalries as well. So in your geographic location, straight to the north is your conference rival in Cornell, Princeton, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but talk about all those different rivalries that you have on all those levels.
Yeah, no, it's, we've, and rivalries come ebb and flow. I mean, when I was started early as an assistant, Cornell wasn't a rival, but I think it was Penn. And then Cornell quickly became the rival. Now Princeton's done a great job. I don't even call Princeton around. I just know Chris Ayers so well. He's, we've known each other forever. I was at Lehigh when he was a freshman, so we go way back. We both want to beat each other really badly, but we have really good rivalries. I'd say, like, I really like Rob Cole. I like Chris Ayers, but they're matches we want to win. Our fans love wrestling Penn State. Like you said, we got Cornell, we got Princeton, we have Penn State, we have Pitt, which is a state rivalry, which has been a great one. We lost a year when Keith took over. I think just because of the scheduling got behind, but we picked that back up. We're going to try to keep that every year. We picked up West Point again. That was always a great rivalry back in the day for Lehigh. Navy's a great rivalry for Lehigh. So it's almost every match we go out, we're circled on somebody's calendar. So we have to be ready every time out.
I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about and probably wrap up the podcast in the current trends that are ongoing in the sport, not emerging, but they're ongoing. And that being one, the RTCs. And this is a hot topic. I think whenever I talk to coaches, there's no middle ground in these areas. They're typically on one side of on the equation or the other. And give us your perspective about what are the positive things that the current RTC structure, how it's elevated program, how it's elevated our country's wrestling, and the importance of RTCs. But then on the flip side, maybe I don't want to call it unintended consequences, because I think wrestling coaches are so intentional. They will take advantage of certain things. If you give them a gray area, they're going to dive into that gray area and probably never cross over to the other side. But, they're going to take any ambiguity in the rules to turn it into an advantage. So give your take on the RTCs.
I think RTCs are one of the best things that's happened to our country for wrestling. They've been great. Obviously, we've gotten results at the world level. They've been great for our college programs. I think the issues come what you just talked about. There's a lot of gray area. I think we have to have some more hard set rules, and people need to follow those. Because when you have a gray area, that gray area gets wider and wider because there's no one setting parameters on it. But we do need to have parameters on it. I don't know what those parameters are. I do know that the RTCs are a good thing. But I think, we have there's so many things I could talk to you off air about that go on. But I just think we just have to have hard, fast guidelines and just put it out there. Like you can or cannot do this. And everybody needs to be on the same page. You can't be, well, my compliance is reading it this way. My compliance is reading it this way. We got to have a hard set rules and everybody needs to follow them. And I think coaches will, like you said, you're always looking for an advantage. And if you can take an advantage somehow and make it work for you, you do that. But a lot of that gets, you get blurry vision a little bit sometimes when you're trying to follow the rules. And that's a frustrating part about the RTCs. And I think a lot of the schools that aren't in favor of the RTCs, they see what's going on. And so those are things I think need to be addressed.
My thought is I'm with you, Pat. I think the RTCs are one of the greatest things to happen to our country domestically and internationally. I mean, you see the results, you see the age group results, you see, the senior level success that we've had. And that's directly attributable to the RTCs, the RTC initiative that's been underway for 10, 15 years now. I do have a problem when I hear coaches say, well, it's a competitive advantage. And my take is, you know what? Take away the RTCs from a Penn State, an Ohio State, an Iowa, a Lehigh, you're still going to have some built-in advantages. So I think if you would to take them away, we're actually hurting the sport. I mean, there's the realities when you get into an institution, like when I went up to Clarion or Binghamton, like, okay, I could have an RTC, but I knew, like, with the lack of resources and the lack of name brand recognition, I wasn't going to have a high level RTC. And it was a reality if we had it or not. So I think to take away would be hurting the sport overall. It would be a net loss.
No, you can't take them away. It's too important for our country, but you talk about fair and unfair. Life's not fair. Business isn't fair, right? It's if you have an advantage, you take advantage of it. I always tell our guys, always take advantage of an advantage. There's some schools that are going to have a lot more than other schools are going to have. And we're the small school. We don't have, all the luxuries of a Big 10, Big 12, but we got some pretty special things, and you got to utilize those things that makes your school great. But you can win at any level. We had, you can have a national champ at any school. You can have all Americans at every school. It's just, you want to be able to attract as many kids as you can. And when for us, we have to find the right kid. We can't just find the best kid. We have to find a kid that, he wants that small school atmosphere. He wants that small classroom. He wants to be able to talk to his teachers on a regular basis. He wants to have a fan base that's always going to, and that's nice. And we're really fortunate. We have a fan base that travels really well. You go anywhere we go away matches, sometimes we have more fans. That's pretty special. And I think, you have to find the right kid that wants all those. When we're recruiting a kid that's looking at, four schools and looking at 2 Big 10s, 2 Big 12s, we know we're in trouble right away just because, hey, we don't have that big school mentality. So you have to find the right kid. And that's just like, that's your advantage and disadvantage. I'm kind of going to go off course with the RTCs, but I hate when schools talk about fair and unfair. And that's just tough because you got to make your job a great job. No matter where you are. I don't care if you're at Clarion. I don't care if you're at Lehigh. I don't care if you're at Penn State. I think you look at, Penn State's a great place. We all, everybody knew that it could be a great program, but Cale made that even better. He's taken advantage of what he's done. I think Iowa's done a great job. I think, Lehigh, we have an alumni are making things way better here. You see that at Princeton happening now. Cornell's done that. So you can be a small school. You can get things rolling, maybe at the same level, but you can get things going better and make your job. Like look at Kerry did at Campbell. Now, that's a good job now, right?
Yeah.
6 years ago, no one was talking about Campbell, but now they are. And I just think you can make any job a good job.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's the approach you have to take with the RTCs. And for me, I know there's been some high level coaches that say, well, they're against the RTCs, but I think they just don't want to take on that added responsibility. And I actually think if you are a leader of a top tier program, you have to accept that added responsibility. There's a responsibility larger than just Lehigh. I think I know for you, Pat, you want to see the United States succeed, and the way you can contribute to that overall goal from our country is helping and fund and bring in RTC athletes and collaborating with these RTCs to elevate, you know, the country to keep it positioned, where we are 1 and 2 with Russia now.
Yeah. No, you have to move forward. Yeah, I want to hit keep hitting this home, but we can't lose our RTCs. But I know we do need some really hard, fast guidelines. And I don't know where that comes from. The NCAA doesn't want to be involved with it. USA Wrestling doesn't want to take too much away. There's got to be a happy medium. There's some rules that we just have to have, because I see too many things are happening, which is probably the complaint of some of the schools that don't have the RTCs. But with the RTCs, there's a lot of responsibility too. I mean, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more fundraising, and you're trying to fundraise for 2 programs now, and that's something you got to be okay to deal with.
Yeah, and I think when you take on a big time job, you walk in with your eyes wide open. I'm sure, like, I think about Chris Pendleton going up to Oregon State now, and I think that's okay. You've got, not only do you have that responsibility of being a first time head coach, you've got that added responsibility of funding and operating and directing an RTC as well. Because, like it or not, I mean, there is that separation, but the vision and direction, the goal for your RTC is set by you.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta set it. You gotta bring the right people in your RTC. I mean, RTCs are getting expensive. A
Yeah.
lot of guys are, but you got to find the right person to come in your RTC too. Someone that you kind of trust. They're going to be a good role model for the kids associated with your program. If you just want to get you can find a lot of people to wrestle for you. You just got to find that right person that's bringing that right mentality, and because you're being watched. You're an RTC athlete. People watching you train. They're watching how you live your life. If you spend an individual time with them, they're going to learn, are they training the right way or doing things the right way? You're being watched as an RTC athlete because you are one of the elite in the country. There's a reason why you're an RTC athlete, right? Someone's paying you to help you fulfill your Olympic dream, but they also want you to be part of their program in an indirect way. So I think those are important. And I think we actually have some great leaders right now in our sport, in RTCs. You look at, I think Jordan Burroughs is one of the best spokespersons for our sport. And then I'd see what Kyle Snyder's doing. We got some great people. So people are watching them all the time, and they have done a phenomenal job. But I think that's responsibility for every RTC athlete. You're a professional athlete, and you're helping yourself fulfill an Olympic dream, but you're also helping people around you that you have no idea about. So that's important.
Yeah, I think without a doubt, I think the RTCs we've seen, I think, in the past, pre-RTCs, once rising seniors left programs, they were somewhat forgotten a little bit. You saw and followed, but I think the RTCs have allowed the fans and alumni of programs to continue to be engaged, and sometimes get engaged with new athletes, like with Snyder going to Penn State. I mean, now he's engaged, and now he's getting supported by a whole new group of athletes. So I think it's been great that the level of visibility and attention that's being received by these RTC and these senior level athletes is greater than it's ever been. And I think that's another phenomenal gain for the sport of wrestling.
We were coming through. We didn't have any RTCs, and you were usually coaching full time and trying to train, and that made it tricky. I think it's really a good time for athletes right now in the United States. If you have an Olympic dream, and I think most of them are really appreciative of that, and so I think they're willing to go and help the kids on the program that you're associated with. But again, it's finding the right person for your RTC.
So is that kind of like when you're bringing in athletes? Is it, because I always said, what, as a college coach, when I'm recruiting, talent's a prerequisite, and talent's an easy thing to spot. And especially so for the RTC, the senior level athletes. I mean, it's easy to pick, oh yeah, this guy's got a ton of talent, but how important is it to still get the right fit for Lehigh and your program?
It's really important. You can't just bring anybody in. You want to make sure, like I said, we talk about, you want to bring culture, and you want to give culture people around your program. I think you want to have really good, positive role models around you, whether it's in the RTC, whether it's on your coaching staff or the kids you recruit. That's really important to me. There's nothing worse than, having someone part of your program and you find out it doesn't work, because it's not good for anybody. And, so probably now more than ever, I'm more paranoid because I just want to make sure I'm bringing the right people in, not just good names and big names, but the right people that are really willing to give back to the sport. Because I think that's ultimately it's going to make the best coaches and the best athletes. So we're always diligently looking to see who's the right fit for us.
Well, hey, Pat, I've taken up a big chunk of your time. I appreciate you jumping on with us today. Always, like I said, regardless of the podcast, anytime I get to talk to you and just to hear your thoughts and pick your brain about the sport, I love it. So I appreciate you taking some time out to jump on the show with us today.
I appreciate all you do, Matt. I always give you a call about every month or so and pick your brain, so I'll probably do more of that. But thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it.